Good evening, Alex.
Hey, Richard, how are you?
I'm great, and yourself?
I'm good. Is it Sunday morning for you?
It is. It's currently 5 past 11 a.m. on Sunday, the 8th of July.
Oh, wow. So I'm actually talking into the future.
Well, you always are, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know. Depends on who you talk to.
I mean, I'm sure being an IT person, loving my gadgets and my trinkets, I think if I ever went to the equivalent of an Andromedan or a Zenitaean sort of, computer shop, I'd probably never want to come out again.
No, I'm sure you wouldn't. You'd probably want all kinds of implants.
Oh, look, if I'm sure they've probably got stuff that I haven't even imagined in my wildest dream, let alone, what IT people usually have an idea as to, the future of technology and the way it's going and, sort of Minority Report type. Well, I suppose that's probably primitive by the Andromedan standards, but.
Well, it's interesting. The technology that they use is things that the physical body itself cannot enhance any further. They've developed themselves to a point where once they have reached their ultimate capacity, if there's a need for something beyond their human ability, then they create it. Such as communication, like cell phones, that's not something they would use because of telepathy, especially when they're all together. Now, when they're, let's say, on a scout craft and they're in another part of the star system, maybe behind the sun, then they would use technology because the sun would distort their ability to telepathically communicate with others someplace else. And then they would use technology. But they never create technology in order for it to create a dependence upon. Do you know what I mean?
It's like the crackberry.
Like the BlackBerry?
Yeah, well, we call it, I'm not sure whether you call it the same in the States, but when they first came out, they were sort of known as crackberries because people would be like, oh, I don't need one, and then they would get it. They would realise how dependent they become on it. And I've had lunch with friends who had blackberries, and normally when you go to a restaurant, or in this case a sort of a takeaway, sort of eat-in Japanese place, you'd chat while you're waiting for your food to be prepared, and he's sort of sitting there, whips out his BlackBerry and starts checking his emails, and you almost feel like saying, well, the BlackBerry is almost counterintuitive, it counter something where the BlackBerry is about linking you people, having you constantly in communication, but at the same time, it stops you communicating with people that are right next to you. But, I'm sure that's a philosophical discussion for another time. I guess
you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, people will be sitting down at dinner and they're all looking at their phones and texting somebody else, instead of talking with each other. I see it all the time, even in restaurants and, gas stations, in cars. There'll be three people in the car and one is driving with a Bluetooth in his ear, and the other two will be texting on a phone, one in the front, one in the back.
See, the only reason because I cannot communicate telepathically with you right now, that's the only reason I'm using a phone.
I get it.
Okay then. So I've set up my audio slightly differently than the last time because you probably heard the echo, which I was going to remove. But anyway, hopefully,
actually, Richard, we didn't listen to the last. I haven't even listened to the last one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then.
So I didn't need to go there.
Mm-hmm. Okay then. So I'll begin and then we'll start chatting. I'm almost tempted to basically say whether you want to introduce yourself and I just sit in the background and not do anything, but then it might seem a bit. Well, I don't know. I mean, is that what you? How would you like?
I would like some introduction. Interaction. I don't know that I really need an introduction anymore. I really,
for all time's sake, I'll introduce you.
Let's just get into some dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go from there. I like that piece about the technology. That's not something I ever spoke about before. So maybe we can work that back into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm sure. I'm sure you're such a. Sorry.
1 or 2 people might be interested in hearing that.
You mean 1 or 2,000?
No, 1 or 2 people.
Okay then.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you well. Yes. I've got before I was using headphones, now I'm using earphones. So yeah, I'm hoping this will be a lot better. Well, practice makes perfect, as they say. And okie dokie. Excuse me, while I clear my throat. Hello, you're listening to the Letters from Andromeda Internet Radio Show. Today's the 7th of July, 2012. With me, I have Alex Collier. Evening, Alex.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for arranging this and making it all happen. And I'm very grateful, that you would take the time out of your day to do this. And, there were some things, there's a lot of current events and things going on that I wanted to share some knowledge that I have and also perspective about what is going on and what's actually going on behind the scenes. Because even though I'm not up on all the information that's out there, there are some things that have, come across to me that, I think some clarification would help, or just a different kind of perspective. There's just, the world is changing very, very quickly. And it may not appear that it's positive in the beginning, but ultimately it'll turn out to be positive. There will be a lot of hairpin turns, and there will be a lot of sudden stops, and then pedal to the metal with this journey the next couple of years, few years. But ultimately, we will be given the opportunity to take responsibility for not only ourselves but our planet. What we do with it at that particular point, I can only hope that we as a race mature and step into that very quickly, and become fully self-responsible, not only for ourselves but for each other.
And the perspectives that you'll be, the perspectives you'll be sharing with us, were they directly as a result of your contact with the Andromedans, or is it through research that you've done yourself?
I was given a heads up about a lot of this, and I've talked about it over the years. A lot of this I was given a heads up in the 90s, early 90s and the late 90s. It just took a lot longer to develop, to come to fruition, come to the surface here on the planet. For example, the New World Order and things like that. They're going to try to create a one world religion, just all of that. It's taken a while, but now you can actually really begin to see not only the push for it, and how everything is being lined up and the structure's been put into place and being put into place, and how they're basically trying to force it, not only amongst us here in the United States, but also the planet, the entire planet. But you're also beginning to see the pushback. People saying, no, we're not going to do this, and it's wonderful. But, let's just get into that here a little bit. You know, there's a great movement, rumored to be a great movement, amongst patriots, thinking citizens, not only here in the United States but around the world, to block this New World Order, essentially, the Illuminati New World Order. And we have to be careful here because these people that run this, who are creating this, who are shaping it, and who have been shaping it, some of them are us, they're human beings, though they don't consider themselves us, and others are in fact extraterrestrial. And they are fourth dimensional thinking beings. In other words, they think very, very differently than us. They are able to construct a complete picture of what events look like and the alternatives should things not go one way but go another. They're very adept at this. Now, that doesn't make them better than us. It does, in fact, make them smarter, but we ourselves also have the potential to do that. We just don't know how, and we've not been shown how to do it. And that's all part of, you know, I hope someday here, a very near future, when mentoring begins, or when we're offered the opportunity of mentoring, that, you know, we'll be taught these same arts. Skills. But, you know, there's a lot of talk. For example, I'll start with the monetary system, and this is something I spoke about in March. You know, we're hearing a lot about a brand new monetary system, a new financial system. And one system that is literally, that's, you know, different from the fiat currency system, but it's one based on commodities. And I find it fascinating how many people think that this is an amazing revelation. They act as if this is brand new, when in fact, you know, for 4,000 years, the Earth's monetary system was commodity-based. Yes, there were letters of credit, but everybody in their pocket had coins of some type of metal, or some other type of assets, whether it be chickens, cows, goats, shipping lines, camels, whatever it was, okay? Depending upon where you live, those things are commodities, okay? Because they're revenue generators, or they're a way for you to barter your services or whatever skill or talent you bring to the table. You know, and basically we have the exact same situation coming up. What I want everybody to understand is that as long as we have a monetary system of any type, we will never, ever truly be free. Now, I know that's a big statement, but it is, in fact, true. Someone will always own the money. We will always be paying someone for the privilege of having the money, using the money, and living on Earth. Okay? I guess the question is, who are we paying for that honor and that privilege? So, you know, if you look at what's been going on, what you're seeing now are certain levels of management, and I'm going to reiterate this, that are being cleaned out, that have become very corrupt, and also are perfect because they've been corrupt to be the sacrificial lamb. So, you know, with cleaning up the system and dropping the fiat currency system and going to a commodity-based system, there will be a lot of dramatic changes, some very good, some that will be very harsh and very difficult for many, many people, especially people in countries that don't have a lot of natural resources, or those natural resources have already been signed over and turned over by economic hitmen to other governments and other quote-unquote banking corporations. Okay, now you have to take all of this into account. The only way a country can actually truly be free is they have to nationalize. Okay, in other words, they have to take back their natural resources from these predatory companies. So what's actually happening here is the fiat monetary system has run its course. Now, if you've done any research or history on a fiat monetary system, it typically runs between 70 and 80 years before it collapses. There has been an exception, one exception so far. Well, it's not really an exception, but let's just say that it's run its course the longest, and that's been the United States dollar, the Federal Reserve dollar. That has lasted longer than anybody thought, and in fact, the only reason it has is because it was established as the world's reserve currency. If it weren't for that, it would never have lasted this long, pure and simple. So what's happening now is that there's this transition going on because it's run its course. But you need to be aware of the fact that the people who own the central banks, who have financed the central banks, who own the money, the printing of the money, for the last 100 years or so or more, they've been buying commodities. They have been buying interest into large corporations, aerospace, military, industrial complex, food, pharmaceutical, engineering, automobile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they've been doing this using trusts and foundations. Now, these trusts and these foundations, they have representatives who sit on these boards, but oftentimes it'll be a corporation, another corporation that's representing the trust or the foundation. Now, this particular model, which many people contribute to the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, is actually the original model for this was the Vatican. Okay, so they're using these trusts because basically they can control everything, but they can hide all the wealth. They can hide all the control, so you never really know who's in fact in charge. And at some point you give up trying to figure it out, and you just continue to play the game. And, you know, it's been masterful. They have been absolutely masterful in the way they've managed not only the game, but all the players as well. And in the players, I mean countries, states, citizens, etc., you and me. Well, you know, we're going to this commodity-based system, and this commodity-based system is essentially going to be the same people. It's going to have a fresh paint job on it, but in the end, it's going to be the same people. It is the same people. And years down the road, we are going to find ourselves in exactly the same position we're in now. Okay? Exactly. Except they will literally own all the wealth, and we will find ourselves slaves again, just having been given a reprieve or a breather of, let's say, 20, 30, 40. I even doubt it would even go 50 years before it would come unhinged again. And, you know, 50 years is actually a hope that it goes that long. So, you know, we need, now the reason that I'm bringing this up is twofold. One is, if Mornay and Faseus were right, that the New World Order would come into reality, it is a reality, but it would come to the forefront in a way where they would absolutely declare it so, that it would be in existence for about 8 months before it would start to disintegrate and collapse on itself from within inside. If that's right, then all the systems and the things that they're setting up would be something that we could use to literally launch us forward into building a truly free economic system for the planet, such as the release of free energy, which we all could use, the elimination of nuclear energy, which is obviously has incredible risks, medical, the ability to heal the body with many other modalities that are currently not only hidden but are against the law. Education, using different types of technology, not only to educate the masses, but to increase brain matter and brain power for everyone across the board. Absolutely no discrimination whatsoever. The ability to spiritually achieve our full potential, telepathy, telekinesis, all those things that many have done in our past. We all have those abilities, the ability to do that, hands-on healing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? The freedom to create, to build, to engineer certain types of technology, merging maybe different realities, different dimensions. I mean, there's no limit to what the potential we have. But in this current system that we now live in, those things are not okay. They are suppressed. They are disencouraged. If you do make something like that, it is often taken from you. Eminent domain is created, or they just kill you and they steal it. We all know those things go on here. So let's just say the A's are right and that happens, okay? And a year, 2, 3 down the road, we stand at a threshold to literally create a new paradigm. And we boldly go for it to create this new paradigm. What's absolutely necessary in order to do that is we have to truly redefine what freedom means. Here in the United States, we still beat our chest and we sing the national anthem, home of the free, land of the brave. We're not the land of the free anymore, and we haven't been for some time. We virtually have no Bill of Rights left. First Amendment's gone through executive orders. Second Amendment's gone, nearly gone. It's hanging by a thread through executive orders. Third, Fourth Amendment. Well, Fourth Amendment's completely gone, through the Patriot Act. I won't get into specifics, but, they can write a search warrant in the car, swear you to secrecy. They come in, do whatever they want in your home. And then, if you tell anybody, they can arrest you for that. So that Fourth Amendment's gone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I want to point out to everyone, especially those here in the United States, other countries have lost their rights as well, that it wasn't the reptilians who took those rights away. It wasn't the ETs who took those rights away. It was our elected officials who took those rights away, who voted them down. Another great example is the presidential election that we last had here in the United States. Change we could depend on. It's almost laughable at this point. It changed, all right. It definitely changed. But again, ladies and gentlemen, the responsibility, and I've said this before in the past, the responsibility is with us. We abdicated management of our nation and our Constitution. We trusted these people to run the government for us while we ran and managed our own personal lives. It's clearly apparent, not only here in the United States, but in other democratic countries around the world, that has been a mistake. And we need to make a change. We absolutely, seriously need to be more involved as a citizenry, and we just have to figure out how we can squeeze minutes, hours, days to become more involved, not only in community, but even on a state level or a national level, your opinion has to be heard, and you have to make them hear it. The direction that the planet is going now is heading directly into fascism, and that never, never, ever bodes well for the citizen, ever. Okay? It, in fact, is the worst of all the political systems, and ultimately is the biggest nightmare. And it is absolutely coming at us like a 747 on a runway. And you have to understand that this is all being managed by the central banks. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about the Federal Reserve going away here in the United States. That may or may not happen. I don't know yet. But you must understand that the United States has not had a United States Treasury since 1921, just shortly after the Federal Reserve Act was enacted into law. Yes, we've had it in name, but it hasn't been real. It has been taking its marching orders from the central bankers. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the world. Libya, Iran, North Korea. What do these countries have in common? Syria. What do these countries have in common? Are they all bad people that live there? No, they're not. What I do want to point out to you is that in these countries, those countries have central banks that are not run by the Rothschilds. So for all this talk about freedom, the new economic system, here we are getting involved in other wars in other countries whose central bank is not run by the Rothschilds. All the others pretty much are. Very much are. Heavily influenced, if not influenced outright. So, just FYI on that, there's, as we're being decimated by all the things in the news and all the stories and twists and turns and shocking revelations, behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen, there is a plan, and it's being implemented. Okay? The right hand is keeping very busy so that the left hand doesn't know what it's doing. And that's us, the citizenry. So heads up on that. Okay, not everything is as it appears to be, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir to many of you, but for those of you who are just getting started and who are just becoming aware of what's going on or beginning to ask those questions, how the hell did we get here? FYI, that's really the purpose for wanting to share some of this with you. And again, very advanced civilizations who are not on Earth, off Earth, they don't use a monetary system. Either they have experienced it through someone else's history, or they've experienced themselves, and they realize that no matter what system they've had into place, it keeps hitting that same wall. Someone ends up controlling everything at some point. And, Earth experience, there's an old expression, let experience be your guide and reason your teacher. Here on Earth, ultimately, this type of power never benefits the people. It's always consolidated into the hands of a few who feel they have the right to do whatever they want to humanity, whether it's a war, whether it's a bio attack, whether it's starvation, whether it's genocide. All of these things are part of our history. And we don't need to visit that anymore. I think we've got a good grasp on much of our history. I think we're all intelligent enough that there's no way we should go here anymore. And I want you to know that they actually believe that they can, and that's why Agenda 21 was brought forth into the United Nations. And I'm not going to get into that. I mean, you can research that yourself. There's plenty of information how dark that whole thing is. But again, I mean, this is actually proving the point that I'm trying to make. You know, we have to stand up. We have to realize that we need to have trust in one another again. Now, what I'm talking about here is trusting that your friend is truly your friend. Trusting that your neighbors are going to watch your back as you're going to watch their back. Building trust in a community that you're all going to work together, even in a situation that's not a non-crisis, to prevent a crisis. Or if something happens, you've already got things in place that will benefit the community as a whole, so that everyone benefits by the change. And that the change empowers everyone, not only in the community, but the neighborhood or the state or the country. You know, many places around the planet are suffering from drought. Here in the United States, it's horrible. You know, and it's interesting, for a couple $1 million, you could build a water purification system, a desalinization system, that would pump out nearly 1 million gallons an hour or a day, you know, using seawater. And it's not being done. And this could be done all over, and everybody could have fresh water. There are so many things and technologies on the planet now that aren't being utilized when they should be. And it's like we've given our power away, that we're waiting for the government to fix it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they can't even manage themselves. You know, they can't even manage themselves. They can't even manage their own books. They can't manage, the Department of Defense can't manage its own records, its own books, its own projects. They just can't do it. They can't even manage the contractors that they have. You know, you just don't hear about it, but they can't manage it. Local municipalities, you know, we all know what's going on. They haven't been able to manage it. So my question to you is, why would we give them any more power? The communities, we need a new paradigm. We need to create something different. We need to change how we manage our communities, because the old model that we've been working doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is that it's all based on revenue. It's all based on money. Now, that's not to say we have to throw out the idea of money, but how it's used, how it's managed, how it's allocated absolutely needs to be a community decision. Okay? Everybody needs to participate in that, because it is ours. It is our community. It is our resource that we all contribute, whether we want to or not, to do this. So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say here, well or not, is that all these changes that are going on for everyone individually, all these changes that are going on for cities and states and countries, nations, look for ways in these situations, in these challenges that we all face, to self-empower ourselves. You know, we get closer and closer to the culmination of all these changes, the New World Order, first contact. Many, many things are going to be happening. And I've read on the internet, many people talking about, oh, there'll be miracles. And, you know, the reality is miracles have been around for a long time. We all have the ability to create miracles, and many of us have created some miracles in our lives of all different shapes and sizes, whether it be a healing of ourselves or a loved one or a group of people praying and someone has gone into remission, or it's the 1 minute to midnight and you don't have the rent and you're going to be living on the street and something happens and you get a phone call and somebody's there to help. You know, those prayers, those meditations, those visualizations, you know, they've all worked. You know, they've created the miracle. Whatever happens on a global scale, do not give your power away. Use these seemingly incredible miracles that occur on a global scale to empower yourself to connect to Source, to connect to Spirit. Don't give your power away, not to anyone. And I caution you again with that, and I've been saying this for years, don't give your power away. You know, it's time for you to stand in your own power, to change your own stars. That's what we're all trying to do here. Okay? Now, there's another scenario I wanted to touch upon, and that is I received an email from a friend that was talking about an interview that was on Project Camelot, Carrie Cassidy's fantastic work regarding Courtney Brown. And I understand that the military remote viewers are seeing some things late 2012, early or mid 2013 in respect to asteroids, comets, etc., debris, space debris. I want you to know that several years ago, I had a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Mike, who's with Exopolitics in Hawaii, and other people. And those conversations were that one of the biggest concerns that the Andromedans had in regards to us was they were very concerned about, as we were crossing through the galactic plane, which is what we're doing right now. We are moving through, we have just entered literally the galactic plane. Is not only gravitational effects, huge gravitational effects, but also solar winds, other type of electrons and energy pulses we've not been subject to ever. Also plasma fields, very large plasma fields. But the biggest concern was space debris. And I've had these conversations with people over the years about this. Now, there were some discussions then that there were talks amongst the Andromedan Council of positioning craft in front of us or below us as we're heading to the southern hemisphere of the galactic plane. Okay, we've currently been in the north, the masculine. Now we're moving into the divine feminine, which is the southern hemisphere of the galactic plane. Of basically plowing the road, moving debris and objects out of our way. That doesn't necessarily mean we won't get hit with some stuff. Now, if you've been paying attention for the last year or two of all the huge motherships in our solar system, especially those who have been hanging around our sun, I have to tell you, I'm incredibly encouraged by that. Because some of these starships are the size of Jupiter. And that's what we need. You know, if you're going to plow the road, you know, that's a plow. That is definitely a plow, a Jupiter-sized planet. So I don't know if that discussion related to Mars as well, or Venus, and the other planets and moons that have life on them. But I'm going to make an assumption that that's for the solar system as a whole, at least those that have life on it. So, I wanted to just touch on that. I wanted to try to give some perspective as to what's going on. There are going to be remarkable changes. As I said, early on, Richard and I, for a few minutes, had a conversation regarding technology, and we got onto the subject of cell phones. And, the A's as a race, the technology they develop is only an extension of themselves after they have fully developed their own senses. In other words, they take themselves spiritually, physically, to their absolute maturity, to the peak of their performance of what they're capable of. And then, once they've done that, then they enhance themselves with technology that takes them a little bit further. But they fully develop themselves first before they start playing with technology. Okay? We might want to look at that. We're all pretty dependent on technology. How many times have you pulled up at a stoplight and there's 4 people in a car, the driver has a Bluetooth in his ear, and the other 3 passengers are on their texts, or on their phones texting somebody, or, but they're not talking to each other. Just one example. It's, even at restaurants, you see it all the time. So, we need to communicate with each other better. We need to, develop relationship with each other even better. And we need to do what we can to create some more trust and with each other. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a catastrophe or something horrific happens in your neighborhood, I would hope that you would stand up and heed the call. Imagine what you could do if you knew all the people already. Imagine how quickly the healing would occur if everybody knew each other and you were all on the same page all at once. It used to be this way. And if we're going to create a different world, it has to begin with each other. It has to begin with ourselves. We have to redevelop trust in each other. We have to start watching each other's back, because clearly the governments of the world do not have our back. They just don't. And it doesn't matter whether they're being controlled by another source, another power. The fact of the matter is they are not watching our back. They're actually working against us. So we have to make a change. We have to develop other alternatives than to depend on them to do something. Katrina. It took FEMA 5 days to get drinking water to the super. Okay? Stupid. Just stupid. So, that's all I got, Richard. There was something else. I'm sorry. There is something else. I'm still working on The Adventures of Captain Dinar. A fantastic producer wants to make it a film. And if you are interested in helping in any capacity, contact info, I-N-F-O, at CaptainDinar, DENAR.com. If you're interested in helping in any capacity, and talk to the Dragonfly team about what it is that you can do. So also, I want to just thank everyone that has helped contribute. It has helped tremendously. You have no idea. Help is still needed. Things are still very, very difficult, and I appreciate those who can, and I appreciate those who have. And I'm, doing everything I can to straighten, to get back on my feet. It just hasn't happened yet. So that's what I wanted to share. Okay, Richard, do you have anything, or?
Oh, I've got plenty of questions, but I'll keep them simple. You spoke about people having to stop giving away their power. Do you believe that? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Hi. Okay, I'm sorry.
You spoke about one of the things I want to talk about is you spoke about people giving away their power and needing to stop doing that. Do you believe that humans have a genetic predisposition because of the alien manipulation of human DNA to give away power to higher authorities?
That's a very good question. I don't necessarily know the answer to that because, for every 100,000 that will, bow down, you'll have 1,000 that'll stand up and say, hell no. So I don't necessarily know if that's it. I think it's just conditioning. I think it's conditioning of thousands of years of being beaten down by lords, kings, rulers, popes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's what it is. And I think that the media and religion have been used so effectively to disempower humanity if I had to pin it somewhere, I would put it on those two. Obviously, global media is a relatively new thing, but religions have been around for a very, very long time. And, if I were to point a finger at a culprit, I would definitely say organized religion has not really empowered people to be completely independent, to unconditionally be responsible for themselves without being coerced by some higher authority, to quote Faceus. So, no, I think we've just been afraid to take our power. That's what I think.
Okay. And in terms of the timelines you spoke about in the past with 2013, how does that tie in with the whole economic system where you mentioned, it could take 20, 30, 40 years of a commodity type based system to do its run? Would one not assume that the moment we get past a certain point in our evolutionary timeline of 2013 where we are supposed to move into the fifth dimension, that the need for any form of monetary system or commodity becomes unnecessary?
Well, based on the civilizations that are already there and that are visiting us in third density, that is true. But, I don't necessarily know for a fact how that's going to affect us. This is in order to make the transition from what we are used to now and what we have been conditioned to use is a monetary system, to go into another type of system which is not a non-monetary system. I believe that we would absolutely need some mentoring, because you're talking about a complete paradigm shift on how we manage every aspect of our reality from what it is now. And we don't have any models like that on Earth. Well, we do. We have the Native Americans who didn't use a monetary system. They traded and did bartering. Many of the Aborigines tribes did. as well. But I don't know how that would work today. I don't know if it would even work. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know how do we go from here to there. I would be part of the mentoring program as well. I would be right there with everybody else in learning how to adapt to such a system. Is it going to happen in 2013? I don't know. My understanding is that everything is event-based now. There are no more timelines. Because we're already moving into fourth, and, very soon we'll begin to have breakthroughs of fifth density. So, how do you measure that? We don't know how to measure that. I mean, this is going to be a first for all of us to do this, in a physical form like this. So I'm extremely hopeful, and I know if we ask, we will get the right help. Those who have our highest intentions will answer the call, but they're not going to babysit us. They're not going to come down and arrest our politicians, and put them in on an asteroid. That isn't going to happen. We are responsible for the mess we created here. As far as the regressive ET group and the Archons, aka Orion group, we'll get help with them, and we are getting help with them. This I know for a fact. But as far as the mess of our own race, we're going to have to clean that up, and we can. We can. We just clearly need to define what it is, what's happened, and how we got there. And once we know all that, we will know what to do and how to not have to go back again. We just don't have all those answers yet. And a lot of things, a lot of revelations are coming to the surface, and it's all very positive. It may not appear so initially, but it is going to be positive in the end. It's just, we're all going to have to put on our raincoats and our boots, because the shit's going to be flying. So, but we have to walk through it. We just do.
Does the 10% threshold still apply, or
I believe so.
Changed?
I absolutely believe so. And I think we're way past that, which is why things seem to be moving a lot quicker. I truly believe we're way past that. I don't believe this can be stopped. They may make some detours, but I don't believe the movement of consciousness, higher consciousness, can be stopped. And as the Earth crosses the plane and moves into a divine feminine energy in the southern hemisphere of the galactic plane, the energy is going to shift anyway. It doesn't matter what anybody does, it's going to shift. We just have to ride out the changes till we get there, and hopefully, have a direction and participate in that direction, voluntarily be moving in that direction, not only individually, but as a species, as a race, to move into that, to, truly living in a symbiotic, way of life where, we truly recognize all of it as being a part of ourselves and being a part of the Great Spirit or the Creator. So,
have the Andromedans told you, as the planet goes through the galactic plane, what sort of manifestations we should expect to see in the skies?
Well, no, they never really specifically said. They never specifically said. But that's on my list. That is on my list. But there's a great lecture that was given by a woman by the name of Susan Joy Renison, Rennison, Susan Joy Renison. And it was a lecture she gave somewhere in Europe. I think it was in Belgium last year. And it's on the internet. It's on her webpage. And, she's not an ET person at all. And, she's right on top of it. And she talks about the plane, the galactic plane, although she calls it something else. And I would suggest everybody take a look at that and listen to what she has to say, because it's amazing. The people from all different walks of life are getting it. It's just so great that they're getting it, that they're waking up and they're giving their perspective, and it's all lining up. Whether you believe we're solely alone in the galaxy or not, the information that's beginning to be shared is really about us. Even lots of the information the ETs have been sharing with other contactees is about us. It's truly about us. And, we're being given the tools to fully move into advanced maturity. All we have to do is stop our bickering with each other, stop the petty bullshit, and just embrace the fact that this is about us. And, we can move into creating something that is truly magnificent. And it's something not only can we all be proud of, but it's something we all can own, because we all helped to create it. It's just, it's all about us. It really is. We're being given the tools because they want us to make this leap, but we have to do it. They can't come down here and grab us by the scruff of the neck and kick us in the ass and say, okay, kick us into the butt into the next dimension and say, let's go. They can't do that. We have to do this. In order to become truly self-responsible, we have to do this. And, the opportunity is it's right in front of us. It's already begun, But I just want you to be aware, which was another reason for the call, was to be aware of the distraction and the sleight of hand that's going on globally, not only about the monetary system, but about many things. The same people are still in charge. Why would you trust them with one system when they've completely decimated the other? Okay? They don't manage for our benefit. It's all about them. So, and I don't want to beat that horse again, but anyway, what else?
Latest, any updates from the Andromedans?
No, unfortunately, I do not. I do not. So, but if I do, I'll let you know.
Certainly gets you worked up, doesn't it?
I feel the pressure of crisis. I do, just like everybody else. More so me because of my economic situation. It's very difficult, very difficult. And but like others, I feel the pressure. I feel the crisis is building in the planet, and like many others, I lie awake at night, or I go for a walk during the day, and I try to figure out, how would I solve this? Can I solve this crisis? How would I solve this? How would I solve that? What would I do here instead of that? I mean, there's just so many things that could be done. Like here in the United States, we have, 40 million plus people out of work. And that is the real number. And, what I would do if I were running this country is I would stop all foreign aid, and I would put that money back into the United States, and I would hire these people who are out of work to rebuild the roads, bridges, and highways in each of the state where they live. Also here in the West, we have huge parcels of forests that are dead because of the pine beetle. Those are just matchsticks waiting to go. And, if you know anything, Colorado's already having issues with fires. I would hire these people to go into the woods with some training and clear out all those dead trees and replant the forests. You know, using money we're giving away to people who vote against us in the UN anyway. It's insanity. It's just stupid. You know, and I don't know why we put up with this. But that, you know, that's just one example of what I would do. And
what you're describing sounds like common sense. So why, you know, I mean, you would have been shown probabilities by the Andromedans on their ships of the planet in various scenarios. Do you feel like you're on on a ride where you know what is going to happen as a probability, but you just sort of frustrated the fact that it's going to take so long and all these issues are going to happen along the path?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question, and sometimes that's true. I think what frustrates me the most is that what I was talking about in the 90s, we never needed to go to where we are today. You know, where the entire world is broke. Well, it isn't broke. It's just that, you know, the people who want to change the monetary system are the ones with all the money. You know, they've stolen it from everybody because it's theirs. They own the money. Therefore, they own us. They own the planet. So they think, okay? It's just the same old game. And I think what frustrates me is, you know, we never needed to be in this place. We never did. And it's really sad that we've let it play itself out, but maybe it was supposed to. You know, I don't know. I don't have those answers anymore. You know, but I see a lot of things in the world today I knew were coming that never had to happen. You know, and you know, I was criticized for it, or I'm criticized for it now, and, you know, it hurts. I mean, this is my life we're talking about. And, you know, like a guy like Ron Paul here in the United States, and in Europe, Nigel Farage, you know, I mean, these guys, they're awake. They really are awake. And, but, you know, they keep stressing, you know, self-responsibility. And, you know, here we know we need to move into that, but so many people are afraid of it. They're really afraid to make that leap because the system is taking care of them, and what they don't understand is that the system is, in the end, only going to grind them up and imprison them. So, you know, what do? You just have to work on yourself, and you have to hope that everyone has their own epiphany. And, you know, they have their wake-up call or their dark night of the soul, and they come through it. And after they've come through it and they've released or acknowledged all their demons, you know, that they stand up and they stand tall and they stand proud and they stand up and they have a real sense of love for themselves and respect for themselves in the end, you know. That's what I hope for. And which is why I say, you know, use whatever experiences you have in your life to empower you. Because, you know, we're all leaders. We are. We're all leaders. We're all royalty. And, you know, all you have to do is claim it. It's really that simple. Living up to it, that's something different. But, you know, first you got to own it. You can't live up to it if you don't own it. So.
Okay then. Well, thank you very much for taking time out to speak to me today.
You're welcome, Richard. Thank you. Thank you for setting this up, and I appreciate your time and, you know, calling me from another continent and, you know, giving me the